Congratulations, you've just found the #1 over 50 health and wellness podcast on the planet. Hello and welcome to the Over 50 Health and Wellness Show. I'm your host, Kevin English. I'm a healthy aging expert and the founder of The Silver Edge, and I am on a mission to help men and women just like you build lean, strong, healthy, capable bodies they love for the rest of their lives. All right, beautiful people, let's talk anti-aging. Not the nonsense you're going to find in some of these social media posts out there, not the miracle creams or the $3,000 supplements with names you can't pronounce. Today, we're talking about a radical new approach to aging well, an inside-out, gut-brain energy kind of transformation. My guest today is Jody Teiche, and she's here to flip the script on what healthy aging really looks like. Jody's a certified holistic health coach, a homeopath, and an energy medicine practitioner who helps people and pets reverse aging physically, mentally, and energetically. Her Think and Grow Young method blends gut healing, mind mastery, and immune resilience into a full-on vitality revival plan. And here's the kicker. Jody didn't just study this stuff, she lived it. After burning out in a 30-year career as a top Hollywood publicist, representing icons like John Mellencamp and Iggy Pop, one of my favorites, by the way, Iggy Pop, not John Mellencamp, just so we're clear, she hit rock bottom and then rebuilt herself at age 67. And now at age 70, she's living proof that it's never too late to feel younger, stronger, and more alive than ever. Today, we're talking gut health, energy medicine, mindset rewiring, and the real deal when it comes to turning back the clock. So if you're tired of feeling tired and you know there's more in the tank, stick around because this just might be the anti-aging plan your doctor isn't talking about. All right, so whip up a protein smoothie and let's meet Jody.
In my former career as a publicist in the entertainment industry, I was always running. I mean, my feet rarely touched the ground and I burned out over and over again, and I pretty much ignored it every time. And most of the time I felt sick. You know, I just felt like not my best self. And over time, as I got older, it was harder and harder for me to bounce back. And I've always been interested in natural medicine. I've been studying, a student of homeopathy for 38 years. And so I was already predisposed. I usually ate well. So I just did a deeper dive. And when I decided to retire from my PR career, I really wanted to follow my passion, my true passion, which is helping people and pets heal and live more vibrant lives. And so I think just being predisposed and then finally deciding to follow my heart kind of led me here to schooling and, you know, getting certified and all of that good stuff.
Right on. Okay. So a little bit sounds like maybe some corporate burnout, right? I think a lot of our listeners can probably listen to that. And then maybe you weren't living in complete alignment for your purpose quite yet. You hadn't found your place there. So you had mentioned I just kept feeling sick, and as I got older, I wasn't able to recover. Now you used a word in there, homeopathy. Help me out with the pronunciation.
You got it pretty right. Homeopathy.
Homeopathy.
Yes.
Yeah. So before we tell people what homeopathy is, you mentioned that, hey, I was already practicing this for 30 something years. Well, that's pretty remarkable. What got you interested in that? Why homeopathy?
That's a really good story, actually, Kevin. So I got introduced to homeopathy one day when my daughter was 3 years old, and we were at the public library of the town I was living in, Chappaqua, New York. And I literally, it was almost like a calling. I looked up at the shelf, the top shelf, and there were two books, one next to the other. One was on medicinal plants. The other one was on the basics of homeopathy, an introduction. And I just reached for the homeopathic book. And I started leafing through it, and I was fascinated. So I took it out. I read it cover to cover. I ordered my own copy. I ordered a little kit, a homeopathic remedy kit. And that started my journey. The following year is what sealed it. And that is when Morgan, my daughter, now 4, my mother and I, the 3 generations of girls, went to Florida on vacation. And as soon as we got there, Morgan came down with this incredible ear infection, crying, pulling at her ears, just like awful. My mom and I were trying to make her as comfortable as possible. I was already seeing a homeopathic MD because I had become so interested. And so I got the antibiotic, I put it in the fridge, I connected with the homeopathic MD. We talked about remedies. We landed on a homeopathic remedy. I got it and I started her on it. My mom and I stayed up all night that night with her, dosing her with the homeopathic remedy. By the morning, her fever had broken. By noonish, she was a typical 4-year-old bouncing off the walls. And I said to myself, how could a severe ear infection be completely healed in less than 24 hours? And I was hooked. And that started many, 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 many examples. I mean, I raised Morgan on homeopathy of people, neighbors, relatives, family, etc., healing through homeopathy in this beautiful form of energy medicine.
This beautiful form of energy medicine. Okay, let's kind of dig into that because in that story, I heard a couple things. One is, of course, you got your 4-year-old daughter. You go on vacation, and oh, geez, what a bummer. She's got an ear infection. Anybody who's had young kids knows that that's no fun, right?
Yeah.
And it sounded like you had a foot in both worlds, right? Conventional medicine and this homeopathic medicine because you had you got the antibiotic and you put that there. Okay, got that just in case. But let me
Exactly.
go and try this homeopathic. So we're curious. What is homeopathy? And how is it
Homeo-
different from commercial medicine, maybe?
okay, like allopathic things like pharmaceuticals and
Sure,
whatnot.
sure.
So, homeopathy is energy medicine, and it is based off of the premise of like cures like. And what that means is back in the late 1700s, when Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, the conventionally trained doctor who discovered homeopathy, he found that a substance that created certain symptoms in a healthy person, when given in a diluted, energized form to a sick person with those symptoms, made those symptoms disappear. Now, that could sound woo woo, but it's based on the fact that it's quantum physics. We're all made up of energy. Everything around us is made up of energy. Every cell in our bodies vibrate on its own frequency. And when you take medicine that, and I won't go into the process of making a remedy homeopathic because it's too involved for this platform, but suffice to say that when you dilute a raw material enough so that it doesn't create a bad reaction in someone, because certain homeopathic remedies, their raw substances are toxic. Arnica,
In the wrong doses,
belladonna.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Hmm.
when diluted, many, 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 many dilutions, and then many what we call succussions, rapid shaking with each dilution, which releases the energy of that substance more and more into the liquid that it's being diluted with. When you do that enough times, you've got energized water. You've got an energized liquid with the healing properties of that raw substance. And when you take a homeopathic remedy, it could be taken in liquid form. Oftentimes, it's these little white pellets that are sucrose pellets, and the medicine is on the outside. So that liquid energized medicine, these pellets are by machine these days dipped, and all you have to do is suck on them, and the medicine goes immediately into your bloodstream. If it's the right remedy and it connects with the energy of what you've got going on, it will work. You'll start to feel better. If it's the wrong remedy, nothing will happen. A little baby can swallow a whole tube of homeopathic pellets, nothing will happen. And
Hmm.
homeopathy is not contraindicated with any pharmaceutical, any herb, nothing, because it's not live ingredients like herbs. It's energy medicine. It's very beautiful. It's just as a last final point, the royal family has had a homeopath on staff as one of their physicians since the 1830s, right to this
Hmm.
day.
To this day, yeah. Okay. What sort of things might one treat with homeopathic medicines? Are there sicknesses or diseases or things that lend themselves towards homeopathy more so than maybe other things? or no?
I describe it as homeopathy over the couple hundred, almost 300 years, has helped people with everything from cuts to cancer and everything in between. Because we have over 7,000 remedies now that have been
Hmm.
proven on healthy people diligently over the decades and, hundreds of years. So homeopathy can be helpful with anything. And it's really just being with a skilled homeopath who is going to ask the right questions to really get to the root of what your individual, unique to you symptoms are, the way you're expressing those symptoms, that the next person with the same illness may be
Right.
expressing totally differently.
Right. Gotcha. And then when we say energy medicine, is the action that's happening inside me, are we affecting things on a cellular level? Because as we know, you had mentioned quantum, we've got some quantum physics happening here as well, but we know that all energies are cell. Of course, we have the little ATPs and the mitochondria that are producing all this energy in the cells, and
Yes.
they are living organisms and they're communicating. And of course, the body is a
Yes.
vastly complex thing. How I suppose I've got a disease, I'm expressing these types of symptoms. So is a homeopathic practitioner
Practitioner.
then going to match these medicines, I suppose, right? But what is the action? What is happening there that is curing me? Is it any different than what happens when I take, say, if I got a runny nose and I go take a decongestant, I
It
stop
is
with my
very
runny nose,
different.
right?
Yes, it is very
Okay,
different because that decongestant is a suppressant. So what is
right.
happening
It's
there,
treating a symptom there, basically, right?
it's not treating it more than it
Oh,
is
that's a
covering
good
it
point. It's not
up.
treating it; it's covering
Your
it. Okay, well
symptoms
said.
will
Yes.
go away, but the imbalance leading to why you have the lights on
Right.
the red lights on the dashboard of your symptoms will not.
Hmm.
With homeopathy, it literally stimulates the body to heal itself. And without getting too complex and losing everybody in just the explanation, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you have vomiting and diarrhea, and I have vomiting and diarrhea. You may be expressing your condition by you can't stand the sight of food. It just makes you super sick. You want to be under the covers, toasty, and you don't want anybody bothering you. I may be expressing it where I'm hungry, even though I feel sick. I feel better in the open air, and I want somebody to comfort me. Those are two people with the same illness who have their own unique ways of expressing their illness. We would each get different homeopathic remedies. So when a homeopathic practitioner chooses, based on how you are uniquely expressing your symptoms, the remedy that most closely matches what you're experiencing and the way in which you're experiencing it and what it would create in a healthy person. Remember that original description?
Hmm.
Well,
Hmm.
then, when that remedy is given to you, the energetics, the energy of that medicine will resonate with the energy of what you're experiencing. And if the practitioner is skilled enough to know the potency and the dosing and does it correctly, needs to be a little bit stronger than the energy that your body is, resonating on for your symptoms, it will overpower. The energy of the remedy will overpower the energy in your body. It will back off, your symptoms will start backing off, and the energy of the remedy will dissipate and leave.
And then the
So,
body's going to find this new homeostasis in this well
correct.
state. Is that the
It
idea there?
helps your
Okay,
body
gotcha.
create homeostasis again on
Right,
its own, heal
on its own.
itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by just how vastly complex our bodies and our metabolisms are.
Oh, yeah.
And with traditional medicine and the intersection with modern medicine, And it just seems like I mean, it doesn't seem like it, there is so much we don't understand about our own bodies. And even in this age where it seems like there's almost nothing left to be discovered, right? With science galloping at such a exponential rate forward, it's a fun time to be alive and be experiencing all of this. All right. Well, I didn't want to go too far
Yeah,
down
but
the,
I want to add something, not about the homeopathy,
hit
because I
it.
think
Yeah, come on.
we've given people enough to, like, if they're going to be interested, to pique their interest,
To
right?
go, yeah, right. Go
Yeah, they
learn
can
more. Sure.
discover
Yeah.
more. But
Yeah.
what you just said, what I find so fascinating that I'm getting into more and more and more, and is the first part, the first pillar one of my book, is what role the gut microbiome plays in
Hmm.
everything. It is literally mission control for everything. 80% of our immune system resides in our guts.
Yeah.
90% of our serotonin production happens in
Yeah.
our guts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing that we're learning just in the last few years is we are learning and able to quantify through new testing not only what bacteria species are in there, friendly versus not, but what they're doing. What they're doing
Hmm.
because, and I've done this with some of my clients, there's a new, relatively new stool test called BiomeFX that does that. None of the other tests do that. The GI maps and all that, they don't do this. And I get to do an hour consultation with a practitioner who is like an expert in the test, an expert in the gut microbiome,
Yeah.
and learn about how what's in there is affecting everything that's creating their symptoms, everything, and
Yeah.
how intelligent our gut microbiome is, how certain bacteria that are the friendly keystone bacteria will tell other friendly bacteria, you need to make more of you right now because I see incoming a pathogen, a proteobacteria, whatever it is, I see incoming that's not good for us. So you need to shore up over here to make sure that we're ready. It is mission control. It is command central. And I find that to be like goosebump exciting.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. So, in your book, which we talked about in the intro here, Think and Grow Young, you've got these three pillars, right? You got the gut.
Yeah.
Gut is a second brain, mind mastery, and supercharge your immune system. But you start with the gut, suspect, very intentionally. And
Yeah.
yeah, the gut is, I mean, we're talking about the gut now in new ways. The gut is a second brain. It turns out the gut literally acts as a brain. It
It's
receives
really
and
the
gives
first
a
brain.
ton of information. It's kind of like, yeah, and for ages we've known this. We've had gut feelings. We'd go with your gut, trust your gut.
Yes.
We've had this vocabulary around our gut, but we really haven't had the science to support it. So, in your words, it might seem a little woo-woo to people, but the gut really, I mean, it's a fascinating microbiome, right? You alluded to there's a bunch of things in there. In fact, there are more cells in your body that are not you than are actually you, so to speak, because we have this very symbiotic
Oh my
relationship with
God.
all of these
Bacteria,
little bugs, right?
viruses, parasites. I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah.
Tons of things in there. Do you want to talk a little bit about the relationship then between this gut as a second brain, this gut as the command center in our health, in our skin health, our beauty, right? As well
Yeah.
as obviously our immune system. And then let's kind of transition and talk about, let's build out a plan. How do we, so if the gut is mission control, what do we do to shore that up? What are the good things that we can do to support that? What maybe should
Absolutely.
we avoid? But yeah, let's talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So I think the best place to start is painting a picture for your listeners of what happens between the gut and the brain. We've got this vagus nerve connecting the two. It is the longest nerve in the body, and it is the command central of your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest, restore, repair nervous system. Most of us are operating in our sympathetic nervous system all day long, every day, which is our fight or flight. Get it done. We're on a deadline. Got to
Hmm.
make this
That's right.
appointment, whatever it is.
Guilty.
So the
I spend a
vagus,
little time there myself. Yeah,
we all
yeah,
do.
yeah.
The
We do.
vagus nerve is that beautiful connection between the gut and the brain that has tentacles into all your organ systems and helps you plug in to your parasympathetic nervous system. Now, this gut-brain axis is talking through that vagus nerve all day long. It's kind of like, do you remember the hotline in the Bond movies? They're talking all day. So this is really the first brain. It's not called the brain, but it really is impacting everything. And all those things you mentioned about a gut feeling, or when we're stressed, or we've experienced something traumatic and we're depressed, our stomachs may be upset, may get upset too. There's a very, very close connection there. And so keeping the gut microbiome balanced and healthy is a way to feel happier. It absolutely affects depression, anxiety. Certain foods that you can eat can affect certain neurotransmitters in the brain to make you feel happier. Zinc is a great mood elevator. If you happen to like oysters, it is the largest source of zinc. So that is a wonderful food to make you feel happier, but there's many, many sources. And so what do we do to keep the gut microbiome happy? There are a couple of basics that I suggest to my clients, my coaching clients, and that I put in the book. The gut loves fermented food. It just loves fermented food. So if you try and eat something fermented every day, and that could be kefir as opposed to yogurt. Why? Kefir has many more strains of probiotics in it than yogurt does, usually. Sauerkraut, kimchi, truly fermented pickles, fermented vegetables. You can pretty much ferment anything, but those are the more common.
Yeah.
So eat something fermented every day. Eat soluble fiber every day. The gut loves soluble fiber. So what is soluble fiber? Apple, sweet potatoes, certain vegetables. You can Google healthy soluble fiber foods and you'll get a laundry list. Pick the ones you like. And then see if you can start implementing intermittent fasting every day. Why? Because if you can reach that sweet spot of 16 to 18 hours between dinner and breakfast the next day, your body is stimulated to create something called autophagy, which is the killing off of cells that cannot be repaired and the repairing of cells that can. So your body doesn't need to be lugging around misshapen cells that are not performing properly. This is a beautiful opportunity to do that. Ketosis, burning fat in the right way, burning calories in the right way, is stimulated. Those are 3 things that you can do every day. Certain people have severe gut symptoms and they need to find out what's going on in there. They need to know what the balance is, imbalance is, and what they're doing. Do they have certain pathogens living in there that are creating their symptoms? Do they have what's called proteobacteria in there, which are byproducts when, for example, you're not digesting protein properly or you're eating too much protein? So it goes from where it's supposed to be digested into your colon still as protein, not broken down into amino acids yet, and it ferments and releases byproducts called proteobacteria, things like ammonia and a small handful of others. Do you have that happening in greater amounts than you should? And then a plan to get you there, a plan to solve the issue. And the plans that are being created today are very, very thoughtful, very strategic, putting things in place that can ensure that, let's say, you've got these, they're called LPS, and what they are they're toxins, and they're living in the lining of your mucosal lining. And when you're doing a process to rid yourself of things like this, when they start dying off, they release toxins. If you don't have something in place in prep for that, you can
Yeah.
feel detox symptoms. You can go into a
Hmm.
Herxheimer's type of detox, and nobody wants that. It's very unpleasant. So these programs take these things into account, the good ones. And we know so much more. There's so many strains of bacteria yet left to be identified. We
Right.
still don't know, but we know
Yeah.
so much more than we did. So we can absolutely move the needle in helping someone to feel better and balancing that gut microbiome, which affects everything. Your skin
Affects everything.
is
Yeah.
just an
Yeah.
organ. It's your
Sure is.
skin is going
Yeah.
to look how your insides are functioning and how well you're feeding your gut and your cells.
And I think a lot of people miss that what you eat has a direct impact on your skin health as well as
Oh
your
my
whole
God,
body health.
yes.
Because as you said, the skin is an organ, right? So
Yes.
it's affected. And of course, we can get into talking about toxins that you're putting on your skin and directly being absorbed. But I think to back up and to finish up here on the gut, obviously a vastly complex system
Oh yeah.
that we really want to have an intentional care and feeding program for that, right? And as you mentioned, hey, let's get some fiber, let's eat some probiotic or fermented foods every day. And we've had multiple guests on this show say that's something I'm personally working on. So I've got sauerkraut in my fridge right now, but I've usually got some kimchi
Awesome.
or something in there. But I
Awesome.
think along with that, I think you would agree, because I think this because I saw it in your book, we want to greatly reduce sugar in processed foods. That's not helping our gut.
Absolutely.
And 70%, over 70% of the average American's diet is now made up of processed and ultra processed foods. That's not helping our
Absolutely.
gut. And then, of course,
Inflammation.
right, 100%. Yeah, not not
It's the
helping
source
that
of all
at
disease.
all,
Yeah.
right? And then we're going to talk a little bit later on. I want to bring this back up, but certainly managing your stress and again, removing environmental toxins as much as possible. All these things have an impact on the gut. Just think of your gut as, like you said, it's your first brain, and you
Yeah.
really should have this almost sacred relationship with what you're putting into your gut,
Yeah.
because it's becoming you and it's becoming your thoughts. It's more than just, we eat so mindlessly, and I think we've lost our relationship with food. We have, because we're so far
Yeah.
removed from our food, most of us. If you
Yeah.
live on a farm, maybe not so much, but
Yeah.
most of us are in urban settings, and we've kind of lost that direct connection, that vital connection to our food, to our gut health. So yeah, and then if you're somebody who's experiencing severe gut issues, obviously then looking for some of these protocols that you were talking about, somebody, a functional practitioner, or perhaps even a homeopathic practitioner, to help you get to the root of that and cure yourself there. All right,
Yeah.
I want to make the transition, because you have these three pillars and really a fourth bonus pillar here. And I want to make sure we have time to hit all of them. So the gut is first and primary, folks. We're going to practice some good, healthy gut management there. But next up is mind mastery. You
Mm.
talk about we become what we think about. And this is something that just recently I've really been focusing on, just understanding how much my thoughts really dictate my future, my reality. So you want to talk a little bit about why would you write a book on how to think and grow young, and then have this mind mastery pillar be one of your main pillars of becoming young? Well, in other words, how does my mind and my mastery of my mind really play into longevity, or me being a more youthful me?
Yeah, it has everything to do with it. As important as the gut microbiome is, the mind and how we think and whether we control our mind has as much to do, because that signals a cascade effect in the body. So it can signal cortisol release if you're thinking negative thoughts, or the paradigms often from our childhood in your subconscious are what's running you, those patterns, right? They're not good enough pattern, whatever it is for that person. So, on a sort of biological level, it can create cortisol spikes, adrenaline spikes, and that is going to, on a chronic basis, create more and more inflammation. And we know that chronic inflammation, like you mentioned about processed foods and sugar and all that stuff that creates it as well, is what is at the root of all disease. But there's also an energetic aspect to we become what we think about. Just like we talked about how every cell vibrates on its own frequency, love is the highest frequency. Hate is a very low frequency.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to just bypass this. I want to pull this apart a little bit because I'm fascinated by this. So, what you are saying then is the emotion of love literally has a frequency, and
Correct.
it is the highest frequency. We can measure this. We know this.
Yes.
And hate and negativity have these very low frequencies.
Yes.
So, yeah, let's talk a little bit. How does that affect our reality then? Because
Yep.
now we're talking about, okay, we have these vibrations. What does that mean? What's going to happen if I have these more higher vibrations, or if I conversely, if I have more lower vibrations? How does that affect me energetically?
Okay. So we talked about the biologics. Now let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about how we are a part of a much bigger spectrum of energy out in the world, in the universe. Let's go back to a little piece from homeopathy of how what the premise of homeopathy is, energy medicine,
Like
like
attracts like.
cures
Yeah, right.
like
There we
attract
go. Yeah.
like. It's one of the laws
Mm-hmm.
of the universe, the laws of nature. So if we are putting out high frequency, high vibe, emotion, and thought, we are attracting quantum physics. We are attracting similar vibration. So, you ever have people in your life who they just think nothing ever goes right for them? They always are thinking what the negative could be of everything, and negative keeps happening in their life. And
Yeah.
then that just
Mm-hmm.
reaffirms what they've thought
Right.
all along.
Yeah.
Conversely, people who are flipping that script and thinking about the positive and the wonderful things that happen in their lives and that this new opportunity is going to be great. They're attracting more positive things. Do like uncomfortable or icky things happen to people with high frequency? Yeah, I mean, life happens.
Sure.
But how we
Mm-hmm.
respond to those things that are not fun makes all the difference. So we're attracting this like energy, but it goes a step further, which I talk about in my book, which is a very important piece. Not only is it important to think, visualize what you want in your life, every aspect of it, but it's as important to visualize it already having happened in your life. You are already living it, you are already experiencing it, and this is just your life the way it is. And it is that emotion behind that feeling of it already being here that gives the thought the oomph to attract the like. So there's the two-parter. There's thinking right thoughts and the emotion behind those thoughts as if it's already
Mm-hmm.
here. And that has everything to do with what we create in our lives, what kind of health we create in our bodies, and, what kind of experiences we have in our lives.
Yeah, I find this very fascinating. I got turned on to this really because I would have listened to this conversation 10 years ago and really thought that's woo woo way out there. And I guess John Assaraf and that whole crowd have really been working in this. And that word manifestation that keeps coming up, I'm manifesting my future. I'm creating this future. It's always been compelling to me, but I've never really felt a connection to it. And then as we're talking, as I listen to people like you, and again, John Assaraf was probably the first person I heard really speaking about this, where I went, okay, wait a minute. Maybe, just maybe there's something to that. And I found in my life in both positive and negative states for this to be very true. When I'm in my flow state, when I'm in my positive energy, it's almost like I'm creating luck. I'm creating bountifulness and good things come to me. And then when it's bottomed out, Kev, and I'm anxious and I'm overwhelmed and I'm down on myself, I get a whole lot more of that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's very interesting. I mean, you talk about, that we know now that science has done a really good job talking about neuroplasticity, and that we can actually literally rewire our brains in the way that you're talking about. So I'm going to do these visualizations. Like you said, it's very important that you get that emotion of I've accomplished this. I am this. So I
Mhm.
am this before I become this almost. And what's happening there is we're literally drawing new grooves
That's right.
in this neuroplasticity
That's
model,
right.
right?
New
And
neural
so
pathways. Hmm.
new neural pathways, yeah. And I find that to be very fascinating. And anybody listening to this can see that, oh, okay, well, if I can change my mindset, much easier said than done, and I can be a more positive person, if I can visualize whatever it is, love and abundance and joy, soul filling purpose, all of these things, you can be positive in that. You're going to, the like is the laws of the universe, or like attracts like, and you're going to have more of that in your life. I think all of us, we agree, we would want that. But now
Yeah.
let's pick this apart a little bit, because like I said, this is easier said than done.
Yes.
So we know that the conscious mind, I actually didn't know this until I saw this in your book. You write that the conscious mind can process, I think it was, what is it, 40 bits of information per second, but the
Yes.
subconscious mind can process like 20 million
Yes.
bits per second. I think all of us intuitively go, yeah, that's probably about right. But what would you say? Because again, we know from psychological studies that the majority of self-talk is negative for most people.
Hmm.
How do I control my self-conscious mind if I'm somebody who's had these negative thoughts, or maybe I've had this, these, you mentioned these childhood patterns, and I haven't broken free from them yet, and they're still kind of ruling my life as a 50, 60-year-old person. How do I mean, what's our roadmap, I guess, for this mind mastery? How do I go from being kind of a down person to being an up positive person? What's our roadmap? What simple steps will we take to get us to this more enlightened state?
So you're right, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not like turning on and off a light switch. You literally have to retrain your mind. There are tools that I have in the book. For me, every morning, I start with a breathing exercise. That's the first thing after I wake up and wash up. It's called the 4-7-8. So I do my 4-7-8 breathing exercise, and then I meditate. I don't meditate for 45 minutes. I don't have time to. But even if it's for 15 minutes, I meditate.
Hmm.
That connects me to myself, to the universe, and gets me more in touch with my heart, okay? Which is really where we want to connect to. Then I do, which I have also included in the book, what I learned, an exercise called My Perfect Day. I literally write out my perfect day. What am I inviting? What's my intention? What am I listening for, or how am I listening? And how am I being? How am I showing up in the world? And then I literally write, after that, I write out how my day is going to go, as in a perfect way, right up until I go to
Hmm.
sleep at night, what time I get into bed. And then at night, before bed, I review it, and I kind of give a percentage of what I created that day. And I keep it near me. It's right here.
Yeah.
Okay? I keep it near me during the day, and I refer to it. During the day, I try and notice. When you do breathing and you do meditation every morning, you become slowly but surely more mindful, more in touch with yourself. So that is going to help you be more aware of when that thought comes in that's negative. For me, I imagine a whisk room. Whisk it right out. Replace it
Mm.
with what I want. And that exercise, you do it enough, and you start thinking more in the way in which you want. So it is a process. It requires consistency. It requires grace for
Mm.
yourself, okay? Because it's not going to be like a light switch. And it's taken decades of the thinking that isn't even true about us that we heard, we were told, whatever, when we were kids, to undo that. It's taken so many years to shore it up over and over again. It takes time to undo it, but it absolutely can be undone. And then once you kind of go over that little early hump and you have a win, it propels you forward, right? Another
Yeah.
hump.
Yeah.
And so
Sure.
you ride on the sort of wave of feeling like empowered by being able to now learning how to control your mind. So it's
Controlling
really
your
a
mind.
beautiful
Yeah.
process.
It is. And I love that you say it as a process. And I think you would agree this is a lifelong journey. It's not like you've
Yes.
arrived. You
No.
are like all of us, you are just putting one foot in front of the other on the journey. We're
Yeah.
all in different places here. But that 4, 7, 8 breathing, that's an inhalation of 4 seconds, that hold for 7, that slow exhale of 8 seconds. And really there's some magic in that deep breath into the diaphragm, hold for a moment, and then that slow exhalation. That exhalation being longer than the inhalation is actually triggering us to move into that
Focus nerve.
parasympathetic,
Yes.
that rest and safety, rest and digest sort of place. So I use that one a lot myself tactically. I'll
Awesome.
use that during the day when I find myself getting worked
Yes.
up. It's like 30 seconds, 60 seconds just to calm myself down. Say, okay, Kevin, this is not really an emergency in any way, really. But like you, I have morning and evening rituals for me. Prayer, gratitude, very, very
Yes.
important. Like you, I've
Gratitude is a
had
big part of the book. Gratitude is a
gratitude is a
big
bit,
part.
it most certainly,
Resilience,
as it
learning
should be.
resilience.
Yes,
Yes.
big fan of having an intentional gratitude practice.
Yes.
But yeah, I love having it sounds like you're almost bookending your day then with this mindfulness and this knowing that it's a slow and steady way of rewiring that brain. But if you do it long enough, what happens is those new neural pathways are formed, and you're literally becoming this person who's more positive and is attracting more positivity into your life. I think we can all agree that would be a great thing, right?
Absolutely. Yes. It
All
feels
right.
so good because the biggest thing is for me, I went from being what I call externally motivated by stuff going
Mm,
on around me in my life, affecting me so intensely, to being internally motivated, knowing that my insides, if I tend to that garden of,
mm.
my calm, my connectedness, that I have control over how I respond. And things don't rile me up nearly in the
Yeah.
same way anymore. So, just, is it perfect? No, I'm human,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Nothing is. If you
It
chase perfection, you're
happens.
100% guaranteed to fail. Yeah.
No,
So,
it
but yes,
happens,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah. And
But
I love
it's
that idea of
shorter.
tending your garden of
Yeah,
joy. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
shorter. It doesn't last as long and it's not as frequent.
Right. Right. There you go.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, Jody, let's talk a little bit about your third pillar, and that's supercharging your immune system. And I think we've kind of covered this a little bit, given the
Yeah.
importance of the gut
We're
here.
connected.
But let's talk about what's our immune system plan. If you could give our listeners just a couple of tips. Hey, not so much how do you build your immune system. I don't think that's the right way to say it, but how do we optimize our immune system?
Yes.
What would we do?
In some cases, it is building because
In some
if you
cases, it
have
could be. That's
someone
right.
who has
Hmm.
been on antibiotics a lot,
Yeah. Yeah.
remember 80% of that immune system resides in your gut, right? So
Right. And is wiped
it
out when you do
wipes it
antibiotics.
out,
Yeah.
right? So you need to
Yeah. Hmm.
rebuild. If you have someone who has been on pharmaceuticals or is on pharmaceuticals, they need extra help shoring up their immune
Yep.
system because it compromises the immune system. Anytime you're dealing with one of the anti-drugs, antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, antihistamines, they all are suppressives. And what that means is they're suppressing your immune system response, which is there for a reason, those red lights on the dashboard. So trying to move off of those wherever possible and replace those with natural ways to heal issues will help shore up your immune system. Staying away from processed sugar, which is going to destroy your
Hmm.
gut, which is going to in turn destroy your immune system and ability to bounce back and have resilience so you don't keep getting sick, is important. feeding your gut the things that it loves is important because it in turn is going to shore up your immune system. There are recipes that are immune system boosting and loving, things like garlic and ginger in your food and eating the rainbow. It's
Yeah,
been
it's a big one.
said a
Yeah.
gazillion times, right? There's a part in the book
Yeah.
called The Color of Food where I talk about how the beautiful relationship of the color of the food you're eating with what organ system in the body it nurtures. And the relationship, we'll get a little woo, but only for a second, I promise.
Okay,
And the
let's go.
relationship right after that of your food and your chakras, which each have a corresponding color, and how interesting that the corresponding color of your, let's say, heart chakra, which is green, and the foods that nourish the heart, which are green, it all is connected. So being mindful about eating the kinds of things that build your body up, fill your nutritional holes with wholesome, fresh, good food, that's going to build your immune system up. And if you happen to get sick, knowing things like, just a couple of tips, things like oregano oil, a wonderful,
Hmm.
powerful herb that comes in oil form. It also can be in a gel cap. That is a great antimicrobial, antibacterial, antiviral. So it will help your immune system fight off something naturally. It'll give it the tools. Things like quercetin, another great immune system
Hmm.
booster. Echinacea, golden seal, another herb, great antimicrobial. Finding natural ways, silver, colloidal silver, finding natural ways to address when we might feel run down is going to shore up your immune system in the process of getting better instead of suppressing it and making you more vulnerable to the same thing
Mm.
over and over again, like the ear infection antibiotic syndrome from the
Yeah,
beginning of our
right.
interview, right?
Right,
So
yeah.
shoring up the immune system is really very goes hand in hand with mind mastery and the gut reset because they all work together extremely synergistically.
They do, yeah. I think modern science likes to really deep dive into just one little segment of things and
Body part.
ignore yeah, right, exactly, body part, and ignore this holistic approach. And we're not just one part. And, we have this very, I don't know, the kind of this body of science that doesn't, because it's difficult. How do you study the body in its entirety? And who knows, with AI and the new technology tools, maybe that sort of science is coming. But today it just seems like everything is just so focused on this one aspect of something. It's not examined in its broader, larger context of its whole environment. I think we
Yeah,
miss a lot of connection there and a lot of meaning there.
there's a reason for that. Med school, what doctors are learning in med school today is not that different from what they were learning 20 years ago in terms of the basic premise: symptoms, short drug list,
Yeah,
match.
right.
This is how it happens. They are not taught but a minuscule amount about nutrition.
Right.
They are not taught prevention. They are really taught triage.
Yeah.
So it's not that difficult when you think 360, okay? And you learn some basic foundational pieces when it comes to supplements. There are foundationals, which we should talk
Hmm.
about. Your audience needs to
But
know.
let's hit it. Yeah. No, I think
Yeah,
my
there are
audience, yeah,
basic
that's one of the questions I get
foundationals when you
asked a
get
lot. What about
sick.
supplements? Yeah, let's go.
Okay,
What are some
so if you
basic
know the
foundational
basics,
supplements? Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you're giving your body what it needs. So, supplements, basics. Everyone is deficient in magnesium. So, you need to
Pretty
be
much.
taking magnesium supplementally. You're not getting enough from food. And it
Right.
depends. There are many different types of magnesium. It depends on
I was
what
going to
you're
say, yeah.
looking for.
Right.
Magnesium glycinate is the relax your muscles, get ready for sleep magnesium.
Hmm.
Magnesium L-threonate is to get the brain going, focus, clarity. Magnesium taurate is heart tonic magnesium. Magnesium citrate helps you, it has many health benefits. One of them is to get you going if you're a little backed
Mm-hmm.
up. And if you're really backed up, you go to magnesium oxide, and that's going to get you going overnight, but it's not something you want to be on ongoing. But magnesium is important. So that's a foundational. Omega 3s, foundational. Omega 3s are like giving your body, if you had a car and it had fresh oil in it all the time, and all of the beautiful things that it allows that car to, inner workings to do well, smoothly. Omega 3s feed your brain, your heart, your muscles, your tendons, your ligaments. And the type of omega 3s is important. In a great omega 3 product, you're going to have a good amount of EPA and DHA. EPA is the omega from the neck down, your muscles, your joints, your ligaments, etc. DHA is the omegas from your neck up, brain, focus, clarity. So taking that balance is really important, and most people don't take enough because we're so deficient. Even children are deficient. So you need at least 2,000 milligrams as an adult of omega 3s. And if you're tackling certain health issues, maybe even higher. Okay, so that's your omegas, foundational. Vitamin D with K2. Most of
Mm-hmm.
us are deficient in D, D3. So you're going to want to get a good D3, but it should be with a K2, whether it's in the same capsule or gel,
Yeah, I've got
or
that.
whether
Let's
it's
see my
separately. Thorne's a great
got
product.
got mine right here.
Yep,
Yeah.
awesome, Kevin. But why? There's a method to the madness.
Mm-hmm.
K2 is the valet for D. It
Right.
takes D where it needs to go.
Right.
D is
Yeah.
making sure, in addition to a number of other wonderful things that it does for the body, it's making sure your calcium is going to your bones and not your arteries.
Yeah.
So they work very synergistically. So you want to make sure that you're doing D3 with K2, foundational.
Yep. Yep.
The other stuff is really based on your own bio, identical, biodiverse needs. So if your body, B vitamins are important because it's great for mood, it's great for so many body functions. But, I don't take Bs every day. I'll take them, maybe 3 times a week. But I do other things too. So, but Bs are
Mm-hmm.
something to look at for sure. C is beautiful. Make sure it's a bioavailable C, the most bioavailable C that you can get. Liposomal is good. There are others that are, also bioavailable, especially when you're coming down with something. Up that C to bowel tolerance, as much as you can take before you start running to the bathroom. And
Yeah.
that's going to help your body heal faster. So, yeah, but there are just some typical foundationals that we lean into with almost everyone before we look
Yeah.
at individual needs.
I love that. Yeah. As in fact, as you did ththose three magnesium, omega 3s, vitamin D, I do magnesium every night before bed. I use a product called Ned Mellow. Omega 3s, I eat a tin of sardines every day. And if I don't do that, I have a good supplement. But typically I eat sardines and a piece of fruit. That's my afternoon snack these days. And then I just showed you I have that little vitamin D plus K2. I keep that right
Yeah,
up here with me so I can just dose that a couple times a day,
yeah.
just under the tongue. So yeah,
You
I
might
absolutely love
want to
that.
do that omega-3 every day supplement because
It
sardines are
on
beautiful
top
and
of my
healthy, but it's not
yeah.
going to be enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, there you
Even if
go.
we love
I'll take
fish,
that
we're
into
not getting
consideration.
enough omega-3s.
Not getting
And
enough.
we have to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
careful of the fish we eat today, too. There are fish that are
That's
more
right. Yeah.
polluted than other fish. And
Mercury and yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
All right, Jody. So let's wrap this up. You finish your book with this. You're encouraging readers to declare this to themselves. I am ageless. I choose vitality, joy, and purpose. I honor my body, mind, and spirit. I live boldly, love deeply, and shine brightly. This is my beautiful life, and this is my time to thrive. Absolutely love how you brought this book home there. And as we're moving out here, because I think everybody would benefit from having that declaration to themselves every single day to start their day that way, maybe even finish their day that way, to bookend their day with that declaration. Absolutely love that. As we're landing here, where do you want to send people? Where can people learn more? Where can they get your book? Tell us how to get
So
in
the
touch
book
with
is
you.
available on Amazon. And if you just go on Amazon into the books and pop in Think and Grow Young. It will pop up. It is a bright yellow cover. You can't miss it. And it's in full called The Life-Changing Program to Reverse Aging, Live Vibrantly, and Reclaim Your Youth. And that's what we cover here because we know enough now to stimulate the body, not only to heal, we've always known that, but to literally reverse aging. And it's not too far off where we're all going to be living over 100, and we want to live vibrantly, not poorly.
That's right.
If we're living longer. And this is a great guide for that. So Amazon, and then if you're interested in knowing more and talking to me about your own personal health issues, you can reach out to me through teichewellness.com. There's means there to book a free consult or discovery call with me.
Fantastic. And folks, I will put all that information as well as all of Jody's socials, all that stuff in the show notes. You guys can find that on whatever app you're listening to that or on the website. Jody, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing not just your wisdom and your knowledge and all the good stuff, but just your passion and your love for this. I love the work you're doing and just encourage you to keep up the great work.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I really appreciate you having me on, and I love to share the message, so thank you.
Okay, that's our show for today, folks. If you are interested in checking out one of our professionally designed, age-appropriate functional strength training programs, I will throw a link to those in the show notes for this episode. You guys can find that on whatever app you're listening to this podcast on, or over at silveredgefitness.com/346. As we wrap up our time together today, you can show your support for this show in two important ways. The first is to tell a friend about this podcast and encourage them to give it a listen. The second is for you YouTube folks to click the like and subscribe buttons, and for you podcast folks to give this podcast a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, and be sure to subscribe and follow so you don't miss any future episodes. I really appreciate you spending your time with me today, and until next time, stay strong. I've got a 4-week-old kitten that we've just rescued here in the office with me as well. And I was wondering, is he going to wake up and crawl up my pant leg during this interview or not?
It's okay
Is there still
with
time for him
me.
to try
It's
that?
totally okay with me.
Okay,
I mean,
good to know. Yeah.